Today we're going to be talking about
the principles of design.
why, yes, epic sounding disembodied voice, you are correct, but we're really talking about the principle of design known as scale. And scale directly affects how proportion works. So to understand how scale works, let's imagine a house. We know a house is normally really big, and we know that if we're comparing ourselves to the scale of a house, we're really small compared to that. But what happens if we take something really small and we show it next to something that's really big, like this apple? This apple is not to scale, and it makes it so it looks like it's bigger than the house. It makes it look kind of odd. And that's the fun thing about scale, is you can make things bigger or smaller than they normally are, and it affects how the viewer sees the artwork. Let's try scale on a face. So you can see right here I have two eyes on this face, and one is out of scale from the other one. One's much larger, one's much smaller, and it looks kind of odd. Let's fix that. Now I've fixed it, and I'm going to draw on the rest of the face. Scale is one of those places where artists first start noticing that things don't look quite right in their own artwork. Sometimes we draw things too big, and sometimes we draw things too small. They're not to scale from the thing that we're actually trying to draw. In this face, it's a lovely face, but you might notice it doesn't look quite right. That's because our eyes aren't that big. It's got giant eyes. So let's bring those back down to scale so that they're equal up with the width of the nose. Now that I've made this other eye on the right side smaller, now you'll notice that when I cover up the rest of the face, it looks a little bit more like a real face. I'm going to show you the other side real quick so you can see that. And you can see how out of proportion, out of scale, that other eye was. That's right, Jimmy. I probably should tell them about the two figures. So, imagine this. I have these two figures, and they're standing here in this white snowy field. Which one's the adult, and which one's the kid? I'll give you a moment. The truth is that either one could be the kid, and either one could be the adult. However, because we drew one larger and one smaller, they're different scale from each other, we just assume that the bigger one is the adult. But as soon as I introduce something else, like this picture of a cow, that's not a cow. A car, that's not it's a car. Once I introduce the picture of a car, then you see it's too small. The people don't look like they can fit into it. But you know, historically artists use scale all the time to change how we see an image. I think it's time to go on a field trip. This, my friends, is an hierarchical scale. This very ancient artwork from ancient Egypt is called the Narmer Palette, and on it you can see the pharaoh Narmer. And no, he was not a giant, and no, he was not around a bunch of little people. The artists actually made him look bigger. They changed his scale to show his importance. You see, important people were depicted very large, and less important people like his followers, they were made really small. Scale made it so the artists could tell us a little bit about who the people were that they were depicting in their artwork. Sometimes artists change the scale to make something really small into something really big. This is the Freedom Stamp, and it's located right nearby in Cleveland, Ohio. And you can see it's normally something that's really small, but the artist chose to make it very big. It makes a big impact now. In this case, the artist changed the scale of the elephant to make it look awfully strange. Hey, I think that elephant's name is Harold. Huh, that's funny.
Actually, my name is Space. My cousin's named Harold.
In this beautiful landscape by artist Thomas Cole, you can see the figures of people, and they're really small in scale to the landscape. I think what Thomas Cole was trying to do was show us how powerful and big nature is in comparison with how small us people are. Well, you people, I'm a lion. However, if you remember our talks about perspective, well, then you realize that because the car's smaller, it makes it look farther away. It changes the perspective of our viewpoint.
Oink.
It's kind of like when Eric Livestock interrupts your video by sticking their heads up close. The scale of its head was larger than those people in that car, and it makes it appear as though it's closer to us. And that, my friends, that is scale, one of our principles of design. That's pretty much what there is to know about scale. I mean, things are big, things are small, you can change the size of those things. Sometimes you do it unintentionally when you're learning how to do art. But the funny thing about scale is, it's kind of subjective. You see, it could be that that pig is just really close, but it could mean that that pig is giant. Houston, we have a problem. We're gonna need a bigger fence.